Welcome to episode 203 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jace. I'm here with Nick and Marty. How are you, fellas?
Going well, Jace. Going well. Always thinking about business. I know you are. Looking forward to today. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Yeah, no, look, I'm always thinking about business too, that and among other things. But if I'm not thinking about it, I quickly am when you send me YouTube clips at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, Warren Buffett or something. So looking forward to what Jace brings us today.
Oh, beautiful. Well, guys, I'm excited to have a bit of an open conversation with you. I thought something that did jump to my mind was the statement that I heard someone say that if I started a business again today, I'd do this. So I thought it'd be a bit of an open discussion, in the room with both of you guys around what we would do differently if we started our business again today, or maybe it's not even the business that we know it. Maybe we'd be doing something else. So if you guys are happy with that, I can dive into the first example and then open the floor, and I'd love to get your opinion.
Mate, open the floor.
Open the floor, Jace, just quickly. Are you going through a different look, or you've? It's I'm trying to work out, is it like a surfy look, or like a lumberjack kind of manly look? What's happening?
I don't know. Just I've come off a weekend away with the family, and just we had Nashville.
Chop some wood, did you? Or
Nashville ZeroCon, just getting in the theme of the American vibes. So I think it was kind of like a pickup truck, US. I don't know. Just, you're right, though. It is a different look.
But it's very different, that's all.
Episode 203, if you're playing at home, you can see me on YouTube. The lighting's all whacked out in the podcast studio at the moment, so you'll notice that I don't look as glorious as I should. But here we are. Thank you for noticing, Nick.
And just for our audience, I'm wearing exactly the same thing and the same hairstyle I've had for the last 5 years. So if you like just comfort and foundational stuff, I'm your man. But Jace, loving it. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
If I started a business again today, I'd probably have a new uniform, something different to wear. But there we go. So getting back on track, the first one here is potentially contentious, but I'll get your vibe and opinion on it. So, I mean, it's one that we're always told is the number one thing you should do when you start a business. Now, I know that, like most, what's the word? Like the painter's house is unpainted, or the mechanic's car is the worst car on the road. Nick, I'll ask you the question. Innovate's been around a long time, but when you started Innovate, did you have a solid business plan?
No.
So if I said that if I started a business again today, I'd do this, and I told you I would have a business plan, what would your opinion of that be?
Well, it'd be positive, and I'd think positively on that. Of course, you need a business plan. I wouldn't say I'm anti-business plans, but I do like brief business plans, knowing what I know in business now that you can't plan out exactly what happens. So to be maybe a one-pager if I did it now. Yeah.
Perfect. Marty, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back in the first business. A mate of mine started it up out of the bank, and it was basically what were we going to do? What was the point of difference in the market? And could we make money out of it? And we knew our capabilities because we were in finance anyway. And it was basically understanding mortgage broking when it first came out and how we were going to educate the market and provide value to that market. But for us, it was very much how do we do what we do in our own business, and then sort of bring it together under a brand. But that's as sophisticated as it got. And the main thing was trying to create opportunities, to start with, and then it just got better as it went. But that was the initial plan. We went to the keg in Ringwood, had a discussion, and we come out of that discussion going, we should do this, and left the bank within a day after that discussion. So that was pretty exciting.
I like a business that starts at the pub. So that's usually the start of many success stories, and then also many not so good stories. But that's good. Look, love great comments, absolutely perfect, and kind of around the angle that I was thinking too. Look, if I was to start a business again today, or if we all were, I think we'd all have at least a one-page business plan, just something that outlines a bit of an executive summary around the purpose of why we exist. Why are we creating this business? Flowing on from that, Marty, you touched on as well, was around market analysis. Like, what's the market? Who are you catering to? Who are you servicing? And then also the financial projections. Just a bit of an idea of if a business is going to stack up and if it's going to work, you need to know some of your basic numbers. And the stats are around 20% of businesses that 20% of businesses are more likely to succeed if they had a business plan. So the failure rates of businesses are huge. I think, there's something around 3 in every 5 businesses don't exist within 3 years of starting. So this is where I think the whole begin with the end in mind, start the business plan, get a rough idea. And look, I mean, while it's nice to have a clearly articulated mission and a beautiful vision and all of your core values worked out, I think they're the things that you can kind of work out over time. So I'm not saying you need to go and articulate and write all those things down, but a basic summary written down of what you're doing, analyze the market of who you're trying to service, and then some financial projections.
It's a great point, Jason. The thing, I might have been loose with my early terminology at the pub there, but again, a part of that discussion was we knew the market was there. People needed money. We knew that there wasn't a lot of choice in the market, so we could save people a lot of money. Our biggest threat initially was educating the market to realize a broker is who you come to for advice, not just when you can't get money anywhere else. So for us, our big mission was to turn it into a staple instead of it being an afterthought. But yeah, and we knew it could be very lucrative if we did it well. But our whole purpose initially was we could put money back in people's pockets, because when we're on the other side of the fence at the bank, we knew the instruction was to strip people for for as much money as you possibly could, and we didn't align with that value. So we felt we could empower clients. And now when I look back, 24 years ago, which sounds amazing in my own head, and I look where the industry is at, 70% of loans are written by mortgage brokers, and we really are almost like private wealth type service providers in the way we look after people, even referring them to your good self, Jace, for accountancy when they need it, for advisory and into financial planning. So we were doing a lot of the things that the bank was trying to do, but the bank was more coming from how much can we strip from where. And I think things have changed now, but it certainly felt that way 24 years ago. Whereas now I feel like it's a really huge value prop, and I love that. I love how far we've come in our industry.
Yep, love it. We'll probably circle back to that in a second. The second one and question back to you guys, if you were to start a business again today, how this looks different. But Nick and Marty, we'll go one by one. How sophisticated was your, I guess, financial management system, your reporting, your ability to run monthly figures, budgets to actuals, that kind of, even your cash flow forecasting? Did you have a sophisticated system, or how was it at the start?
No, definitely not. And what I will say though is, I didn't consider myself a business person when I went into business. So I think knowing what I know now, and also the access to education and content now might be a very different story. But no, mate, it was, there were definitely Excel spreadsheets, but it was pretty basic, income, expenses, and the major ones. What was left over. I think at the time we used would have been MyOb as an accounting system, which was nowhere near what it is today. So, yeah, unsophisticated, I would say.
And I can second that. I always remember our first business card was created off wingdings, and it looked cheap and tacky, and the car was blowing smoke out the back because it was a really cheap car, so we'd always have to park it on a hill so we could get it started and walk around the block to the client so we didn't embarrass ourselves. But it was, and even in regards to financial management, we would look at, income that came in, and what income did we want to come in. First of all, we set that goal, and then we would look at the expenses every week and go, how can we keep this as lean as possible until we really built those cash flows up, and then we use those cash flows to better the business as we went. And I saw other brokers get a lot that started businesses at the same time, get a lot less traction because they were trying to get the business to look right first. So they more had that emphasis of everything looking a certain way. But for us was, we just want to save people money. So we just want to get out, save people money, show the benefit, and then they just kept telling their friends, and it just kept evolving and evolving. But like Nick said, and part of this is what I loved about it, is it was so raw. We were finance people. We weren't business owners. We learnt that along the way, and it was great. It was so raw. And, as you go on, you do become more sophisticated and you invest money into that. And that's great too. But there's something really great about that early phase as you get going.
Yeah, 100%. I bring that one up. I'm fortunate to be in a position where I see a lot of business owners that, start to look for an accountant or an advisor, a couple of years into the journey. Maybe they're 1 or 2 years in, realize, shit, maybe I better get on top of my GST, my taxes, get it all lodged and up to date. So, step one, make sure you got a business plan. I'd do that differently if I had my time again, and tell a lot of clients this too. Step two is also putting some energy and effort into setting up your accounting system, your structures, to make sure that you're getting the right tax deductions, paying the right amount of tax, and also managing cash flow effectively. If you don't have a good, sophisticated accounting system and an ability to manage that, that's where most, I think it's 80% of businesses that fail report poor cash flow and poor accounting management as the reason why they failed. So, that's a huge number of failed businesses that happen because of poor accounting data or poor cash flow, which, all ties into each other. Again, by setting up the accounting system right from day one. Again, we're accountants. I talked about the mechanic's car was the worst car on the road. We didn't even look at it ourselves. We went, hey, let's get the fancy website going, make sure clients can sign up online, hand out those business cards as well. That was probably printed on, one of those mass, printing things. And Greg and I were handing them out like candy, and away we went. So, again, it's what I've learned now of what I'd do differently. And it took years for us to recover after the fact to go, well, hang on a minute, let's rebuild our accounting system to show the figures this way. And then let's bolt our systems together. So making sure your apps and your tools that you're using to run your business are actually talking to each other. That's a great place to start rather than figuring it out down the track.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Jace, can I just say on that too, and this is something to be careful of. I've seen a lot of people do well in business based on those grassroots efforts and really, working lean and getting those revenues up and actually seeing whether they had a proposition. But sometimes people have an exit and they do really well out of that exit, and then they go and start another business, but they invest heavily into the infrastructure and also the branding to make it look good, and start burning through cash without creating sales. So it's really important to get that proof of concept on your purpose and what you're attempting to do, to get reinforcement back from the market, get the cash flows running through. And I've had many a business owner go, stuff it, we're not investing anymore until we get this top line right, and if this is actually relevant. So I'll just give you that, because I've seen successful people go in and overinvest and forget about what actually works in the first place. So really keep onto that.
No, definitely. And the extra point to add there is that getting your accounting system set up, or, making sure that you are using a Xero and that you've got it set up from day one rather than kind of going a year later, is that it also doesn't have to be expensive. There are ways you can get this set up, and it doesn't have to be, it's not a huge capital investment up front, but it's the time, energy, and effort to make sure that it's presented the way that it needs to be presented, and that you find yourself a good partner up front, a good accounting partner, bookkeeping, financial planning, mortgage broking. These are all the people that generally are an afterthought, or do you think they're too expensive to get involved early on? So they're, again, the things that, for a lot of business owners, if they had their time to start again, there's something else they would review.
And I edify that, because, again, as exciting as it was, if I had had a lot of advice early from the right people, you just would have saved so much in different ways. So I think it comes a time, very quickly in the piece, that you need to have good professionals around you, to making sure that you're getting the maximum bang for your buck on the efforts that you're putting into.
Nick, question for you. I'm always targeting you first, but at what stage did you start investing in digital marketing or SEO?
Oh, that's a really good question.
How many years in do you reckon you were?
Yeah, I would say SEO, I'm going to say probably 7 or 8 years in, I think. Then that's probably when we got serious about a website and whatnot, but it was still very, we were still flirting with it more than anything. When did we get really serious about it? And when I say serious, I mean understand it ourselves, as in not just paying someone else to do it, but actually understanding it ourselves. It was probably, 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah.
Yep.
Which was, just to say, that's 11 years in.
Yep. Yeah. Wow.
we didn't have things like SEO back in the day, Jace. We actually had to go to barbecues and eat chops and
I wonder
drink
why Marty was staring at you, just silent.
beers and actually sell our value face to face. Remember those days? But I did like the idea. I remember when Facebook first came out, and we thought, because 90% of our business was virtually word of mouth. We do a good job, they tell someone else. When Facebook came out, we sort of thought, well, how can we build that same digital trust to a wider market? That was the one question. And initially, it was a very simple strategy. But when we settled a deal, we would actually have the client put a post up and thank the business. And that was actually really interesting, because then all their friends would chip in on that, and then we'd just befriend them. So it was like we were sort of building a pipeline without even recognizing. It was just street smarts. But then obviously, as things become more sophisticated in that digital space, there's some remarkable stuff with Innovate that I've seen that just actually builds direct trust with the market that you could never do on that entry level that we were starting at. And people literally have been watching our website and reading our blogs over sometimes 4 or 5 months, and they go on a journey, and by the time they ring, they're ready for action. And I just think, I think that's remarkable, and that's something you really can't ignore in this day and age, because I think you'll get left behind pretty quickly.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. So, the points around that are, the times have changed as well. When we started businesses, now what we know about SEO and digital marketing, even just a marketing plan in general, is very different to back then. So for the new age, or the people who are thinking about starting business now, to be looking at, modeling the masters. Who else out there is absolutely nailing their digital marketing? They've got an engaged audience of raving fans that are happy to be their customers. So that's kind of one part of the digital marketing arm. But it's then, if you need to get in front of other people's customers to, potentially woo them to become your customer, how are you going to do that? What are the methods to do? And, a bit of a random example, but, you've got Loon Croissants in Melbourne. They became famous. They were, very social media. People would go and buy a croissant and take a photo on social media. There'd be digital marketing involved. But then you've got, all of a sudden, there was a Tarts and On. Gareth won the Dessert Masters on MasterChef. He started a tart baking business during COVID, and that all came through social media. They posted beautiful pictures of tarts. They told people they could go to the website and, start to buy these tarts online. So you've got businesses that have grown through digital marketing, and they've been able to look at other people and the way they've done it and grow their business that way. Now, again, we're in financial services, but it's all kind of the same. There's people who are online looking for services, and it's how they're going to find you. And the other part of that digital marketing point is the SEO. You think about the search terms very early on of the business you're starting. Again, you've done that solid business plan. You've got a bit of a market analysis. You'd think about, how would people find you? What would they look for to be able to find you? And it might be, best mortgage broker, North Melbourne. And my bet is that Innovate would probably be number one on Google, because due to the investment in SEO and the blogs and everything else that goes on. So it's those kind of things. If you invest in them from day one, imagine another 7 or 8 years of SEO investment from very, very early on Google, Nick. You imagine just how, far up the Google food chain Innovate would be, with an extra 7 or 8 years of blogs, SEO content, Google reviews, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say is also dealing with the right group. So one of the biggest lessons, I put marketing and tech in very similar baskets, right? Like sometimes when you're on the other end of the conversation, and you've got no clue about the service provider on the other side, I think there's a lot of circumstances where you can be with the wrong group, or have the wrong strategy. So we definitely have wasted money, for lack of a better word, purely because we're with the wrong people on the wrong strategy. And this isn't just SEO, this is all things, right? Tech included, seems to be tech and SEO. So it's obviously hard to determine who is the right person for you. But I guess what I would encourage people to do is talk to other business people that maybe are in the similar industry, which is going to be difficult if they're a competitor, or, someone like yourself, Jace, your accountant. But Yeah, it's one of those things where you can spend a lot of money on marketing and SEO being captured in that for zero result. And it's a quick fix with someone else who comes along and says, "Oh, no, that's the wrong strategy. Why are you doing that? You could have done it for half the price, and you just
Mm-hmm.
needed to do this, this, and this." And the reality is that you don't know what you don't know. So, if you're sitting on the other end of a meeting and you've got no understanding, you need to educate yourself, or at least talk to some other people that have had success and who they're using, because you can get caught out pretty quick and spend a lot of money with no ROI.
Yeah, Nick called it. You don't know what you don't know, and that gap costs a heap. And and really, the best way to overcome that, if you are bringing someone on, go and speak to 3 of their clients that are getting results, and work out how they're getting results, and make it industry specific. So again, there's a lot of pitch in a space that's wide, and you want to be really. I mean, that's the lesson I take out of it. You just want to get real results and get some evidence of that. Yeah, big lesson,
Yeah.
big lesson.
100%. This one potentially a little bit left of field, but it's one that I'm learning more about recently myself. But would you say that, and potentially again might be different for both your businesses, but maybe not, ideal target customer? Did you have someone in mind when you first started your business, or was it anyone with a dollar who could use your services?
For me, anyone with a dollar that can use your services in the initial stages. And this for me is one of those things where you can get caught up in the woohoo, so to speak. Like, at the end of the day, Marty said it before, it's the only thing that makes you succeed early is hard work, and drive. So one thing that I have learnt, and we talk to our brokers about this all the time, but every person that you see is an opportunity for you to do another deal. So whether it's their sibling or their cousin or their colleague, if more people you help and you do a good job for, the more people that are aware of what you do. And sometimes that means you do jobs for less of an ROI than you would have hoped for. And we've done plenty of that, and we still do plenty of that. But I think in the long term, it's the best way to go. You just help as many people as you can within reason. You've obviously got to make sure you're making money, but there'll be times when you'll have a deal come across your desk and you'll think it's not really enough money in this, but think outside the box and think about what opportunities you can create off doing that deal. And sometimes your marketing is you actually doing a deal for less money versus paying someone else to try and attract a deal in. It's just considered as a marketing cost. And
Yeah,
yeah, particularly in the early days.
I think your time is your marketing, and if you can give a client a wow experience and you can demonstrate value, you'll spend that time, because that person, if they're happy with the service, will be with you for the next 10, 15 years. So every deal is sacred. Every person is sacred when you're starting a business. And at the end of the day, the extra zeros come as you build out. And yes, as you get more and more busier, you have to be smarter about how you attract. But I think the avatar, you know, sometimes you start an avatar absolutely great. So it depends where you are in business. But when you're first starting, I tell you what, every client you just want to overservice, because it leads to the next opportunity if you're not spending a heap on a marketing budget.
Yeah, and I'll preface that by saying, Jace, you go after the clients that you want. You actively go after who you want to deal with. But the reality is you're going to get some others as well. And hopefully one day you're in a position that you don't deal with the others, and that's fine. But in those early stages, it's not only the fact that it provides more opportunity, but it also gives you ability to learn, particularly in the early days.
Yeah. And I still, I think back 24 years ago, I still haven't had a sort of subliminal avatar. I knew the banks were servicing, now don't fall over, 200 grand deals were they could service them pretty well. But anything sort of 400 to a million was underserviced. and over $1 million, which is probably equivalent to 2-3 million today, but was private wealth. So that was very competitive. But there was this beautiful space between 200 and a mil that was totally underserviced that we could give a private wealth experience to and really give exceptional service. So even though we didn't have it mapped out exactly, we knew exactly where we could have an impact in the market. And I think that's the thing. You learn this through street smarts, but also being in the bank. So you get a direct line of sight as to where the opportunity is. But again, I've done 50 grand deals that ended up turning into 500 grand deals because the neighbor wanted to come on board. So it's like, so there's a bit of that as well. You take on everything, but you become more focused as you go too.
And lastly, a question. I mean, look, there's so many different areas I could go into here, but these were the few that I kind of jotted down before the app. How far into business were you before you had a business coach or a mentor or somebody else advising you on the business formally?
Probably 10 years for me, which is too long. It's probably one of the things I would change, particularly find someone in the industry who'd been on a similar journey.
Yep.
I think if you can do that from day one, really, that's definitely the way to go. There's people out there that are willing to help.
Yeah, we were fortunate. We used to hold a lunch back at the Keg. We must have liked the Keg back in the day. It was an old-fashioned pub. But we'd invite 6 business owners along that had proven success. So Craig and I, we were good at writing deals, but we weren't very good at business. And that was something we had a lot to learn around. So that was really, really helpful. We picked people. We had one from the finance industry, and we had various others, probably about 4 or 5 others from different industries. And why we did that was just getting scope of perspective, because we knew finance pretty well. So we needed to have someone to bounce off, but we wanted to get insights from other industries so we could actually pick up some subtleties where we might have a point of difference as well. So that was really great. We made good friends out of them, but we learnt a lot. They were older than us. We were late 20s. They would have been late 30s into mid 40s. So picked up a lot out of that, and might have been once a month, but it was great fun, and learn a heap. And they backed us too. So if they saw an opportunity, they liked us because we paid for their drinks and the meal, and that was pretty handy when I think back.
Well, shout out to the Keg. We're gonna have to get an invite to go to the Keg with Marty at some stage.
I think aren't they dissolved? I haven't seen them for years.
Yeah, you stopped drinking, Marty. They went broke.
I stopped drinking. That was the end of them.
No, that's it. Look, great extra points added by both you guys. I couldn't agree more. And it's the reason I added that one in there is the big finale wrap up. Took us years to start working with, any mentors or coaches. And I also think, getting somebody on board earlier. And if it's not necessarily having to pay a formal mentor or a coach, it's what you said, Marty. It's being able to surround yourself by people, and Nick, you said this too. Find a couple of people in the industry that are doing what you've done. Make friends with them. Get them in your circle, and add value to each other. It's not all about what you can take from them. I know very early on, Nick, we had several conversations where we'd share ideas with each other and bounce off each other. And that definitely helped me a lot in the early parts of my journey. And even now, fortunate enough to be on the CPA Public Practice Committee in a room full of accountants every month, the Xero Platinum Partner Breakfast that I go to again. So, and I sit there in awe of the other accounting firm owners that I'm in the room with going, man, they are doing great things. They've got epic ideas. So if you're not putting yourself into a room full of other people in your industry doing brilliant things, and whether that's you're in e-commerce and you need to join an online forum where all the e-commerce people hang out, or, whether it's finance, it doesn't matter your industry. It's finding people that you can surround yourself with that are doing amazing things so that you can learn and grow from that. So lovely little addition. Love that from you guys as well, the extra points. And thank you for challenging some of my ideas as well. It's always good when things are kind of fired back at you to challenge the idea. But
Jace,
Marty,
what would you do now if you couldn't be an accountant? What would you do? Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think.
And how would you make that decision?
Oh, good one. I'm pretty set in the sense of, from an answer of this, I don't have to think too much about it. I do what I do because I love helping people. Now, while accounting underpins, a lot of what we can do to get business owners in a room, and I can do the compliance, or my team can do the tax and everything else, a lot of what I do is just sit with an sit with a business owner and talk to them about their business. So I think the natural progression, if I wasn't running an accounting firm and having an awesome business surrounded by business owners, I would look to do that last point that I talked about, being a mentor or a coach, and just getting business owners out of their own heads to talk about their business and what's working, what's not, and streamline and guide them to where they want to get to. Bit of that accountability.
It's a great answer, because it is a lonely game out there for business owners, and we've all felt that at various different times, and that's why I'm always wrapped. We've got the camaraderie because around us too, just to chat, because it's and people need that advice. It's amazing how business owners get isolated in their own industry, in their own ideas, and just even, like I've said before, Jace, like putting a business owner that's doing well but could be doing better onto you and getting that third party advice and guidance. It's just so empowering to the actual business owner to go, wow, I've got the next level forward here. Whereas they've been working hard to get to this point, and you'll know when that point is, when you need extra support, and it's time to get it. When you know you need it and you haven't got the answers, certainly reach out and give Jace a call. His team are fantastic, and I know like stuff that Nick's doing in regards to financial well-being. You talk about good community, adding value to people, going into firms and talking to their staff about how to be more financially secure in the future. I mean, this is an area that's so underserviced, not taught well at school, and people make money but they don't know how to set themselves up for the future, and they could just get so far advanced with the right people around them, and even do that. Like, I used to think to myself, like a novice coming out of the Yarra Valley, right? I didn't have the means to go and hire coaches at that time as much as I would have loved to. But you still can find people along the journey that you respect, that you're aligned with, that are getting results, and you can talk to those people and they're happy to share back because you're enthusiastic about what you do. And then, you can then take that advice in your own way and remold it into something very successful for yourself. So people always say, you got to have money to make money. But, it's like, first you got to work out how to make money and you got to, but there's people available along the way to help you make it as well. It's just sometimes you have to think outside of the box, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask the question. Plenty of good people around.
And don't engage a business coach. That's the other thing I'll say. Don't pay a business coach. I think there's a lot of business coaches out there. I'm sure there's some great ones, but I think there's a lot that are not so great. When I say a lot, maybe 90% of them. Jason, you probably got a better lens on this than I have. So I think when we're saying look for people that will help you, there's just some legitimate business owners out there who will want to help you and will give you the time. Don't go and pay someone that you saw online.
I take a lot out of what you think, Jace, like in regards to you'll give me a different perspective. Nick will give me a different perspective. Geordie, the GM, Caden, like our team members, it's, you talk to them and you're always learning and you create efficiency in the game, which is, maybe that's just me, that's my perspective, but I really like that. How do you get stronger based on the reality of where you're at and what you're doing? Something pretty magical about that.
Well, that's it. Hopefully, if you've managed to listen to all 203 episodes of The Numbers Game now, you're feeling empowered, you're feeling well and truly educated, and you're up and about doing amazing things out there too. So thank you again for joining us. If you're only new to these episodes, feel free to go back through the catalogue. There's only a few episodes there. You'll hear me celebrating at about the 110 mark for the journey to 200. So it's always good fun. Do like, subscribe, depending on what channel you're on, give us a follow. 5-star reviews are always welcome. And as Marty said, you can always reach out to Nick, Marty, and I. We created this podcast to help people, so that's what we're here for. Until next time, though,
keep having a crack. Business is good. Game over.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.